A kitchen table, 1956. Oak, scratched dark from a decade of bread knives. A boy, age 11, watches his father's hands fold a square of sandpaper into thirds. The boy is holding a wooden block his grandfather whittled in 1908. The block has a hairline crack running through the wormhole on its eastern face. His father sets the folded sandpaper down, picks up a tin of Formbees, and looks at his son the way a man looks at a door he's about to walk through. Nobody is recording this. Nobody is grading it. The kitchen clock is the only judge, and the kitchen clock does not care. What that boy learned in the next 40 minutes cannot be bought at any price in any store in 1996. It cannot be downloaded. It cannot be taught by a man wearing a lanyard. And the man who taught it learned it the same way, at the same table, from a father who is no longer alive to confirm the lesson was correct. These are 31 workshop skills American fathers passed down for generations, until our fathers stopped. Most men under 50 cannot do a single one of these properly. And number 1 is the skill all the other 30 were secretly building toward. We will get there. Subscribe before we start. Number 1 is the skill that matters more than all the other 30 combined. Number 31. The first skill is reading a board. Not the stamp on the end, not the bin at the lumber yard, the board itself. A boy in rural Ohio around 1952, age 12, stands in his father's garage holding a 2x4 across his open palms like a rifle. His father tells him to close his eyes and find the crown. The boy rolls the board. His palms feel the slight upward bow. His father tells him that bow is the ceiling. Every floor he will ever lay must be crowned toward the center of the room. This is not theory. This is felt knowledge, stored in the wrist. A modern contractor hires a moisture meter and a laser level. He measures. He does not know. The boy in Ohio knew. A board that cannot be read is a board that will betray you 6 months later. And every board will betray you if you do not learn its language first. Number 30 was the same lesson, applied to grain. A boy in 1953 in western Pennsylvania, age 11, runs his thumbnail along the edge of a pine 1x6. His father watches. The boy is learning to read direction, which way the grain runs, which way it wants to be cut, which way it will split if you are careless with a chisel. The father does not explain this. The father holds up a board cut against the grain and asks his son why his hand is sore. The boy does not know. The father shows him the tear-out. The boy never forgets the tear-out. A modern carpenter buys pre-milled MDF and calls it progress. He has not read a grain in 20 years. He does not know why his trim keeps splitting at the miter. Not a class, not a YouTube tutorial. A father's thumbnail, drawn once down a board, in a garage that smelled of turpentine and sawdust. Number 29. Squaring a frame without a speed square. A boy in upstate New York, around 1958, age 13, is helping his father build a workbench. The father hands him a steel tape and a pencil and a framing square and says, "Measure the diagonals." The boy measures one diagonal, then the other. The numbers do not match. The father says, "Make them match." The boy does not know how. The father shows him once. Push the long rail this way. Watch the short rail slide that way. Feel the frame settle. The boy shoves the rail. The frame goes out of square. The boy shoves again. The frame comes in. The boy now owns the motion. A modern woodworker owns a digital angle finder. He trusts the readout. He has never felt a frame come into true. A square frame does not announce itself. You make it true. There is no shortcut, and there never was. Number 28. Driving a 16-penny nail without bending it. A boy in 1954 in central Illinois, age 10, holds a 16-penny sinker in his left hand and a 20-ounce Estwing in his right. His father has already bent 3 nails into croquet hoops. The boy swings. The nail bends. The father hands him another nail and points to the chalk line. The boy adjusts his wrist. The nail goes in. The boy does not know he has just learned something no power driver will ever teach him. He has learned to read the resistance of wood through a hammer. A modern man shoots a nail with a finish nailer at 120 psi and calls it craftsmanship. He has never felt the wood tell him no. Every nail you ever drive by hand is a conversation between your wrist and the grain. The compressor cannot have that conversation for you. Number 27. Sharpening a chisel on a whetstone. A boy in rural Vermont around 1961, age 12, kneels at the workbench with a 1-inch Buck Brothers chisel his father bought at the hardware store in St. Albans. The stone is a Norton combination, coarse on one side, fine on the other. The father has already put a small block of wood on the bench. The boy hones the chisel. The father pulls a sheet of newspaper from his pocket, holds it in the air, and shaves a curl off the page with the honed edge. The boy tries. The chisel tears the paper. The boy hones again. The chisel shaves. The boy is now a person who can put a working edge on a tool. A modern woodworker replaces the chisel. He does not own a stone. He does not know what his tools are made of. A dull tool does not just cut poorly. A dull tool teaches you to cut poorly. And then you teach your son to cut poorly. And the line of bad cuts runs back to the first man who refused to spend 7 minutes at a stone. Number 26. A boy in 1956 in eastern Kansas, age 13, watches his father take a Diston D8 panel saw out of its cotton bag. The father sits on the back porch step. The boy holds a small file while his father flexes the blade between 2 wooden blocks and sights down the teeth. The father files one tooth, then the next, then the next. The boy is bored. The boy is learning. 3 hours later, his father pulls the saw through a piece of white oak, and the sawdust comes out as powder, not chips. The boy understands. A modern carpenter buys a new blade when the old one goes dull. He has never touched a saw set. He does not own a saw set. A saw you have set yourself is a saw that knows your hand. A saw you have not set is a saw that is owned by no one, and it shows in the cut. Number 25. Planing a board by hand to a finished dimension. A boy in 1959 in northern Wisconsin, age 14, planes a piece of fir down to exactly 3/4 of an inch. The father does not give him a caliper. The father gives him a pencil and tells him to mark the high spots and plane until the marks are gone. The boy planes. The board gets thinner. The boy checks with a yardstick. The board is too thin. The father hands him another board. The boy starts again. By the third board, the boy knows what a quarter-inch of forgiveness feels like in the hands. A modern man runs the board through a planer and calls the dimension correct. He has no memory of what wood smells like when it is being cut at 5,000 cuts per inch.
The boy at the creek bank at the top of this video, the one with the wooden block from his grandfather, is going to come back into this story, but not the way you think. Number 24. Cutting a clean mortise by hand. A boy in 1957 in western North Carolina, age 12, has been given a half-inch mortising chisel and a piece of white oak. His father has marked the mortise on the end of a leg for a small workbench. The boy is told to chop to the line. The boy chops past the line. The father cuts a new piece of oak. The boy starts again. The second time, the boy chops shy of the line and paring takes too long. The father cuts another piece. The third time, the boy hits the line on both walls. The father does not say, "Good job." The father pours 2 glasses of water from the kitchen tap. That is the praise. A modern woodworker routs the mortise with a plunge router and a jig. The jig is someone else's knowledge.
The boy in North Carolina owns his. A mortise that you cut by hand is a mortise you cannot fake. Every wall remembers the chisel. Number 23. Sanding to a final finish without a random orbital. A boy in 1955 in southern Indiana, age 11, has been given a block of wood and 4 grits of sandpaper. 80 grit, 120, 180, 220. His father says nothing. The boy sands with 80. He sands with 120. He sands with 180. He sands with 220. He runs his hand across the grain, then with the grain. He does not know he is learning the difference. He is. A modern man sands with 180 and calls it done. He has never felt what 220 feels like under a palm. You can finish a surface in 4 minutes with a machine. You can finish a surface in 4 hours with your hands. The 4-hour surface is the one your grandfather would have recognized. Number 22. Mixing a true oil and varnish blend. A boy in 1953 in eastern Oregon, age 12, watches his father pour boiled linseed oil into a can of mineral spirits. The father does not measure. The father pours until the can is half linseed, half thinner, and a fingernail dipped in the mix runs across a scrapboard and lays down a wet film in one pass. The boy is told to mix the next batch himself. The boy pours too much thinner. The father adds more linseed. The boy pours too much linseed. The father adds more thinner. The third batch is right. The boy does not know the ratio. The boy knows the test. A modern finisher reads the can. The can is for people who do not know the test. You cannot teach the test from a label. The label knows nothing about the wood in your hand. The wood in your hand knows everything. That last skill is the one most men under 40 assume they can substitute. They buy the right can, they read the right data sheet, and they call the substitution complete. It is not complete. The wood knew. The boy knew. The can knew nothing. And we are about to walk through 10 more skills that the can and the data sheet cannot replace. The next 10 are heavier. The next 10 are where most modern men begin to feel the loss not as a curiosity, but as a diagnosis. Number 21.
hammering out a dent in a wood surface. A boy in 1958 in Central Texas, age 11, drops a hammer on a freshly planed tabletop. The dent is the size of a dime. The father does not reach for a filler. The father puts a folded damp cloth over the dent, sets the tip of a warm iron on the cloth, and counts to 10. The wood swells back. The dent is gone. The boy is now the owner of a trick no polyurethane can perform. A modern man reaches for wood filler. The wood filler is the wrong color. The modern man paints the table.
Wood remembers its shape. Give it steam and time, and it returns. This is one of the few repair tricks in carpentry that does not require a purchase. Number 20. Soldering a seam in a tin can. A boy in 1954 in rural Missouri, age 12, is helping his father repair a watering can that has rusted through at the spout. The father cleans the patch with emery cloth, fluxes the patch, and hands the boy a length of 60-40 rosin core solder and a Weller 100-watt iron. The boy is told to feed the solder, not melt it. The boy melts the solder. The father wipes the joint clean and starts over. The boy feeds the solder. The joint fills. The boy now knows the difference between soldering and melting. A modern man throws the watering can in the recycling bin and buys a new one on Amazon for $11. He has not soldered anything in his life. You may already be seeing the pattern here.
Every one of these skills has one thing in common. We will name it at number 6. Number 19. Reading a knot before you cut into it. A boy in 1956 in northern Michigan, age 13, is helping his father frame a wall. The father points to a knot in a 2x10 and tells his son to cut on the side away from the knot. The boy asks why. The father says, "The knot will fall out in 15 years, and you want the grain to hold the load after it does." The boy cuts where his father told him. The boy has just learned to think in 15-year intervals. A modern framer does not think in 15-year intervals. He thinks in code cycles and mortgage rates. A knot is not a flaw. A knot is a clock. The man who knows when a knot will fall out builds a wall that lasts. The man who does not know builds a wall that fails. Number 18. Tuning a hand plane.
A boy in 1960 in eastern Connecticut, age 14, has been given a Stanley No. 4 that his grandfather used for 40 years. The plane is out of true. The father shows the boy how to lap the sole on a piece of plate glass charged with wet, dry sandpaper. The boy laps the sole for 45 minutes. The father then shows the boy how to set the iron and adjust the lateral lever until the plane pushes a continuous shaving of even thickness across the entire width. The boy tries. The shaving is thick on one side and thin on the other. The boy adjusts. The shaving evens. The boy now owns a plane that will outlast him. A modern woodworker buys a new Veritas plane for $280. He has not lapped a sole. He does not know what a true sole feels like. A plane you have tuned is a plane that knows your bench. A plane you have bought is a plane that knows the catalog. Number 17.
Repairing a broken chair rung without a lathe. A boy in 1952 in Western Virginia, age 12, is told by his father that the rung on the kitchen chair is split and he is going to fix it. The father cuts a tenon on a fresh piece of hickory, glues the rung into the socket, wedges the tenon with a slip of oak, and lets the boy drive the wedge. The boy drives the wedge too hard and splits the rung. The father cuts another rung. The boy drives the wedge correctly. The chair holds the father's weight that night at dinner. The boy is told nothing about this. The boy sees it. A modern man takes the chair to the curb. The chair is oak. The curb takes it to a landfill. A wedged tenon is one of the oldest joints in carpentry. It predates the router, the lathe, and the screw. It will outlast every one of them. Number 16. Picking the right screw for the job without asking.
A boy in 1957 in northern New Jersey, age 13, watches his father hold up two screws. One is a flathead wood screw, number 8, 1.5 inches long. The other is a drywall screw of the same length. The father says, "Which one for the hinge?" The boy points to the flathead. The father asks why. The boy says it looks like a wood screw. The father says, "Drywall screws are made of hardened steel and they snap under shear." The boy now knows why a screw has a shape and a metal type and a length, and he knows before he asks next time. A modern man buys a box of assorted screws at the hardware store and calls it preparation. A screw is a small machine. Every machine has a purpose. The man who does not know the purpose uses the wrong machine and blames the result on the wood. That boy in New Jersey will frame a wall in his 40s that outlasts the houses built by his neighbors.
He will not be able to explain why. The explanation lives in his hands, not in his vocabulary. The next 8 skills are the ones that define the difference between a man who fixes things and a man who calls someone. We are entering the part of this list where the ache gets specific. Pause here. Tell me in the comments, which of these did your father or grandfather teach you? The comments on this video are full of men naming the exact moment. Read them. Number 15. Setting a dowel without a jig. A boy in 1954 in southeastern Ohio, age 11, is assembling a small bookshelf with his father. The father marks the dowel locations on both pieces, drills the holes freehand, and the dowels line up. The boy tries. The dowels do not line up. The father cuts new stock. The boy tries again. The dowels almost line up. The third time, the dowels line up. The father sets the glued joint in a clamp and hands the boy a glass of milk. The boy is not told that he just learned one of the hardest repeatable motions in carpentry. A modern woodworker buys a Dowel Max jig for $200 and a set of self-centering bits. He has not drilled freehand in 20 years. A dowel that lines up freehand is a dowel that your eye knows how to read. A jig only tells your eye what to do. Number 14. Sharpening a handsaw on the job. A boy in 1959 in central Pennsylvania, age 13, is helping his father resaw a piece of chestnut when the saw goes dull halfway through the cut. The father pulls out a small triangular file and a saw set from the back of the pickup. He sets the truck tailgate as a vise, clamps the saw plate in a wooden saw vise, and sharpens every other tooth on the bench. Then every other tooth on the other side. The boy is told to hold the file at the same angle as the existing tooth. The boy holds the file too steep. The father resets the angle. The boy sharpens. The saw cuts again. They finish the resaw. A modern carpenter drives to the truck stop, buys a new saw at the plumbing aisle, and returns to the job. The saw is stamped China. It will not hold an edge. You can sharpen a saw on a tailgate in 20 minutes. The man who knows this never runs out of saws. Number 13. Cutting a clean dovetail by hand. A boy in 1955 in western Massachusetts, age 15, is being taught by his father to cut the dovetails on a small jewelry box. The father saws one pin and one tail. The boy saws the next. The boy tears out the baseline. The father cuts new stock. The boy saws again. The boy is too tight on the shoulders. The father cuts new stock. The third time, the boy's pins and tails slide together without force and without gap. The father does not say a word.
He opens a drawer and pulls out a tin of pipe tobacco and packs his pipe at the workbench, while his son saws the rest of the box. That is the moment. A modern woodworker buys a Lee jig for $600. He cuts the same box. The jig makes perfect dovetails. The jig is not the boy. A dovetail cut by hand is a dovetail your hands will remember. A dovetail cut by a jig is a dovetail your hands will forget. Number 12. Heirloom restoration. Taking a piece that is broken and bringing it back without replacing what is original. A boy in 1958 in Central Tennessee, age 14, has been given his grandmother's rocking chair. The caning is shot. One arm is loose, and the finish is gone. The father teaches the boy to soak the caning spline, replace it with new fiber, glue the arm with hide glue that has to be heated in a double boiler, and refinish the chair with 3 coats of hand-rubbed tung oil.
The boy spends 6 weekends on the chair. The chair now sits in the boy's living room. He is 63 years old. His grandchildren sit in it. A modern man refinishes the chair with a can of spray polyurethane from the big box store. The chair looks new. The chair is not the chair. The boy at the creek bank at the top of this video was not there to skip stones. He was there to repair something his grandfather had made and his father had let slip. We will come back to that boy and what he was actually carrying in his pocket, but not yet. Number 11. Splicing a broken fence rail in the field. A boy in 1953 in northern Missouri, age 13, is with his father when a saddle horse kicks through a 3-rail fence. The father cuts a fresh rail from a cedar post in the truck bed, marks the break on the broken rail, and cuts a scarf joint with a handsaw. He fits the splice, drills 2 holes through the joint, and drops in 2 carriage bolts. The boy is told to hold the nut on the backside while the father tightens. The fence is up in 20 minutes. The boy knows what a scarf joint is. A modern rancher calls the fencing contractor. The contractor comes next Tuesday. The horses are out until Tuesday. A scarf joint you can cut in a field is a joint you can cut anywhere. The man who owns the motion does not wait for Tuesday. Number 10. Replacing a single damaged board in a hardwood floor. A boy in 1956 in southwestern Ohio, age 16, is helping his father repair a water-damaged board in the living room floor. The father marks the damaged board, drills a row of 3/4-inch relief holes along the center line, and chisels out the damaged piece from the tongue side without scarring the adjacent boards. The boy is told to clean up the tongue on the replacement board with a shoulder plane and dry fit the patch. The patch fits. The father glues and weighs it down with a 5-gallon bucket of water. The next morning, the patch is invisible. A modern man rips up the entire floor and replaces it with laminate. The laminate is 7 millimeters thick. It will not last as long as the patch. A patch you can cut in one board is a patch that respects the 99 boards around it. The man who rips up the 99 does not understand what the 99 are. Number 9. Forging a simple hook from a coat hanger. A boy in 1951 in northern Alabama, age 11, watches his father heat a coat hanger wire over the burner of the kitchen stove until it glows orange, then bend it with a pair of pliers into a small hook for hanging a coffee pot over a campfire. The boy bends his own. The first one cracks at the bend. The father reheats it.
The second one holds. The boy now owns the knowledge that iron has a temperature at which it becomes something else entirely. A modern man buys a hook at the dollar store for $1. He has never felt metal give way under heat. Iron remembers nothing until it is hot. Then it remembers everything you tell it. The man who knows this can make any hook he needs. Number 8. Sewing a torn canvas tarp. A boy in 1954 in eastern Iowa, age 12, is helping his father repair a tarp that has torn along a seam. The father threads a sail needle with waxed linen thread, sits on a kitchen chair, and sews the seam with a baseball stitch. The boy is told to wax his own thread by drawing it through a block of beeswax 6 times. The boy sews the second seam. The tarp holds through 3 more winters. The father tells the boy that the man who can mend his own tarp is the man who does not get rained on. A modern man buys a new tarp at the farm supply store for $49. He has not threaded a needle in 20 years. A baseball stitch costs nothing. A new tarp costs $49. The difference between those numbers is the difference between a man and a consumer. Number 7. Building a crate for shipping a fragile object. A boy in 1958 in the hill country of central Kentucky, age 15, is told by his father that a piece of family china needs to go to his aunt in Pittsburgh by railway express. The father does not go to the store. The father builds the crate in the shop from pine 1x4s, cutting corner braces that lock the bottom and sides, lining the interior with newspaper from the week before, and marking "Fragile this side up" on 3 faces in grease pencil. The boy is told to swing the crate against the side of the barn. The boy swings. The crate holds. The china arrives unbroken. The aunt writes a letter. The boy knows what a crate is for. A modern man buys a box at the UPS store for $19 and 2 pounds of packing peanuts. The china arrives in 5 pieces. The man does not write a letter. A crate you build is a crate the post office cannot break. A box you buy is a box the post office has already broken 1,000 times before you walked in. We are about to step into the last 6. The next skill is where most modern men stop reading the list. It is not because the skill is hard. It is because the skill names something they have been trying not to name. The first 6 skills are not the hardest skills on this list. They are the ones the other 25 were secretly building toward. Pay attention to this next stretch. It is not the same list you have been hearing. Something has shifted, and most viewers do not notice when the shift happens. By the end of this stretch, you will. Number 6 is where the pattern gets named. Number 1 is where everything in this video lands. Number 6. Diagnosing a mechanical failure by the sound it makes. A boy in 1953 in Central Ohio, age 13, is in the shop with his father when the old John Deere tractor begins to knock under load. The father does not open the hood. The father stands beside the running engine with his eyes closed and listens for 45 seconds, then says the third cylinder is dropping on compression. He opens the hood and pulls the spark plug from the third cylinder. The plug is oil fouled. The diagnosis was correct before the hood opened. The boy is told to listen again tomorrow. The boy listens. The boy begins to hear what his father hears. The knowledge moves across the years the way all the real knowledge on this list has moved, by standing next to a man who knows, until the boy knows too. The pattern in this video is not the skill itself. The pattern is that every skill on this list is transmitted by a man to a boy across a shared piece of work. Class, coach, program. None of those words appear in any item on this list. Not one. The man and the boy are standing next to each other. That is the entire method. That is the entire transmission. And that is the entire thing that is missing. A modern man hears a knock in his engine and takes it to the dealership. The technician listens with a stethoscope probe that costs the shop $400. The diagnosis takes 20 minutes and costs $180. The man does not know what the third cylinder sounds like when it is failing. He has never been asked to learn. The cost of not knowing is paid in dollars, 3 times a year, for the rest of his driving life. A man who can hear what is wrong before he opens the hood is a man who is not at the mercy of the man who charges by the hour. Number 5. Laying out a project from a sketch on a scrap of cardboard. A boy in 1956 in western Pennsylvania, age 14, is helping his father build a small addition to the back porch. The father does not use a plan from a magazine. The father draws the addition on a piece of cardboard from a shirt box to scale with a carpenter's pencil and a 6-foot folding rule. The boy is told to lay out the first stud wall on the subfloor using the cardboard as the reference. The boy measures twice. The boy cuts once. The boy cuts wrong on the third stud and is told to start over. No anger in the voice, just a calm restatement that a man who cuts twice does not get to build the thing he is trying to build. The boy starts over. The stud wall goes up plumb. The addition is finished before the first snow. The boy has now built his first small building from a sketch that began as a piece of cardboard. A modern man hires a contractor. The contractor draws the plan on a computer. The boy of the household watches television in the next room. The boy of the household will, at 35, hire a contractor of his own. The knowledge of how to draw a room on a piece of cardboard to scale by hand does not move across the generation. It stops with the father. The father dies. The cardboard dies with him. The sketch on the cardboard is not a step in a process. The sketch is the proof that the man knows what the building will look like before the building exists. A man who cannot draw the building cannot build the building. A man who cannot draw the building cannot catch the contractor in a mistake. A man who cannot catch the mistake pays for the mistake. The mistake in the average home renovation costs $4,000. The cost of not knowing is again paid in dollars, again for the rest of his life.
The sketch on the cardboard is the first test of whether the knowledge moves to the next man or stops with this one. Number 4. Writing down measurements on a folded piece of paper in a shirt pocket. A boy in 1952 in eastern Tennessee, age 13, is following his father through the lumberyard at the supply house. The father does not write on the back of his hand. The father writes the measurements of every piece on a folded piece of paper kept in the breast pocket of his work shirt. The boy is given his own folded paper. The boy writes down 2 by 6 by 8 feet, 2 by 6 by 10 feet, 2 by 4 by 12 feet, 2 sheets of half-inch plywood. The boy loses his paper before they reach the car. The father hands the boy his own paper. The boy copies the list onto the new paper. The father does not scold. The father says, "A man who loses his list is a man who buys the wrong lumber twice." The boy never loses a folded piece of paper in a shirt pocket again. The boy is 68 years old in 2020. He has never lost a folded piece of paper in a shirt pocket again. A modern man uses the Notes app on his phone. The phone dies at the lumber yard because the cold weather killed the battery. The man buys the wrong lumber twice. The man drives home and back. The man loses an hour of a Saturday and $34 in gas. The folded paper does not need a battery. The folded paper does not crash. The folded paper is the entire knowledge system of the man who depends on himself. The folded paper is the first sign that the man is his own record keeper. Number 3. Sharpening a hand tool on a whetstone until it shaves. A boy in 1950 in the hill country of southern Indiana, age 11, is handed a draw knife by his grandfather. The draw knife is dull. The grandfather does not sharpen it. The grandfather places the whetstone on the workbench, hands it to the boy, and tells the boy to sharpen the draw knife until the blade will shave the hair off the back of his own forearm. The boy sharpens for 45 minutes. The boy tests the blade. The blade does not shave. The boy sharpens for another 30 minutes. The boy tests the blade. The blade shaves a single hair. The grandfather tests the blade himself, runs his thumb along the edge at a slight angle, and says the boy is close, but not yet. The boy sharpens for another 20 minutes. The blade now shaves cleanly across the back of the forearm. The grandfather hands the draw knife back to the boy, handle first, and says the draw knife is now the boy's. The boy uses the draw knife for the next 41 years. The boy is 71 years old in 2010. The draw knife is still sharp. The draw knife is still his. The grandfather has been dead for 38 years. The draw knife is the proof the grandfather existed. We are very close to the end of this list. Most viewers by this point are noticing that something has changed in the way the items are landing. The earlier skills were about competence. The last 3 skills are about something else. The last 3 skills are about what a man owes the boy who is standing next to him, and what a man owes the man who was standing next to him before. The first skill on this list, the skill all the others were building toward, is next. Number 2 is the bridge. Number 1 is the destination. A modern man buys a draw knife at the hardware store for $48. The edge is dull from the factory. The man throws the draw knife in a drawer. The man does not own a whetstone. The man has never tried to sharpen a blade. The man has never tested a blade against the hair on his own arm. The draw knife is a piece of metal in a drawer. The grandfather is gone. The boy is gone. The draw knife is the proof nobody stood at the bench.
A blade that will shave is not a sharp blade. A blade that will shave is a blade the boy made sharp by his own hand. The hand is the test. The hair is the proof. Number 2. Teaching a skill he was just taught to a younger boy without being asked. A boy in 1957 in central Missouri, age 14, has just spent a Saturday in the shop with his father learning to true up a handsaw by hammering the teeth against a small anvil set in the workbench. The following Saturday, a younger cousin, age 9, comes to visit. The boy does not wait to be asked. The boy takes the cousin to the workbench, lays out the anvil and the hammer, and walks the cousin through the same process his father walked him through the week before. The boy does not speak well. The boy stumbles on the explanation of set and rake. The cousin does not understand the first time. The boy tries again. The cousin hammers the teeth. The saw cuts straighter at the end of the afternoon than it did at the beginning. The father watches from the doorway of the shop. The father does not say a word. The father goes back into the house. The father tells the boy's mother that the boy has now finished the last skill. The mother does not know what the father means. The father knows. The transmission of skill from one generation to the next does not require a credential. It does not require a course. It does not require a curriculum. It requires only that a boy, having been taught by a man, turn to a younger boy and teach him the same thing, on the same bench, with the same tools, in the same words. The moment the older boy teaches the younger boy without being asked, the skill has crossed the generation. The skill will now live in the family for as long as the family remembers it. The skill is now the family's skill. The skill is no longer one man's skill. A modern man at 45 takes a class in basic woodworking at the local makerspace. The man learns to true a saw. The man tells no one. The man does not teach his son. The man does not teach his nephew. The skill dies with the man. The skill was a class. The skill was a line item on a credit card statement. The skill did not become the family's skill because the man did not hand it to a younger boy at the bench. A man who teaches what he was taught is the man the knowledge survives inside of. A man who keeps what he was taught is the man the knowledge dies inside of. Number 1. Standing at the bench beside his son and saying nothing until the son is ready to hear. A man in 1955 in eastern Kansas, age 41, is in the shop with his son, age 11. The man is tuning up the small Briggs & Stratton engine on a push mower. The man does not explain what he is doing. The man works in silence for 20 minutes. The son watches. The son asks a question. The man answers the question in 4 words. The son asks another question. The man answers that one in 6. The son does not ask a third question for the rest of the afternoon. The son watches. At the end of the afternoon, the man hands the son a small adjustable wrench and nods toward the carburetor. The son takes the wrench. The son tightens the mounting bolt the man was about to tighten. The man watches the son work. The man sees that the bolt is tight. The man says nothing. The man nods once. The son has now received the only piece of knowledge that cannot be written down. The son has received the knowledge that a man can be trusted to know what he knows. Every skill on this list was a piece of work done at the bench. Every skill on this list was a piece of knowledge the father handed to the boy. Every skill on this list, from number 31 to number 2, was a single transmission. The single transmission was the method.
The single transmission was not the point. The point of the transmission was that the son, at the end of the transmission, knows that the man beside him can be trusted to know what he knows. That trust is the only inheritance that cannot be divided in a will. That trust is the only inheritance that does not appear on a balance sheet. That trust is the only inheritance a boy can spend for the rest of his life without it ever running out. That trust is the only inheritance the boy, at 55, hands to his own son at the same bench. That trust is the skill all the other 30 were secretly building toward. The other 30 were the curriculum. This one was the degree. A modern man at 41 does not go to the shop with his son. The man goes to the office. The man comes home. The man checks his phone. The man tells his son to go ask the internet. The son, at 35, does not own a wrench. The son, at 35, does not know a single man in his life he would trust to know what he knows. The son does not know what he is missing because the missing is not a skill. The missing is the bench. The missing is the man. The missing is the nod. The missing is the only inheritance the son cannot buy back at any price, at any age, from any man. A man who stands beside his son and says nothing is not a man who is withholding. He is a man who is waiting for the moment the son is ready to receive. That moment cannot be scheduled. That moment cannot be taught. That moment arrives only when the man has done the work of the other 30 skills in front of the son, year after year, until the son no longer watches the work. The son becomes the work. The son tightens the bolt. The man nods. The son, for the rest of his life, knows what a nod means. This is the skill all the other 30 were building toward. Not the skill of the hand, the skill of the bench, the skill of the silence beside the work, the skill of the nod at the end of the afternoon, the skill of standing beside a boy until the boy becomes the man was waiting for.